Thanks everyone for joining. I'll kick it over to you, Alex.
All right, yeah, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for another Avela webinar, the last one of 2025. Can you believe
That's
that?
right.
We have a great session for you today. It's called AI is Coming to Enrollment, What School Leaders Need to Know for 2026 and Beyond. My name's Alex Weitzel. I'm the marketing manager at Avela, and I'm joined today by Mike Murphy, marketing lead at Avela, and Sonali Soy, client services lead. And before I let them introduce themselves a bit more detail, a couple of housekeeping notes for the audience. Number one, this is a recorded session, so you will all receive the recording of this webinar in your inbox tomorrow. Two is that we have designed this to be an interactive session. So we have a poll question for you. We have a Q&A at the end. So we encourage you to participate. And if you have any questions or comments throughout the session, use the chat function in Zoom or the Q&A function that you see there. We'll be monitoring those throughout. And yeah, hope that you participate. Mike, I'll turn it over to you for some intros.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Mike Murphy. As Alex said, I lead the marketing team here at Avella along with my lovely colleagues here. I'm super excited for this topic. Alex and I, certainly on the marketing side, I'm sure Sonali and her team, we use different AI tools every day, and it's been really exciting to kind of see this move into the education space a bit more. So really excited to share kind of some things that we're already seeing, some ideas we have for the future and maybe even a little bit of sneak peek to what we've been up to at Avella on the topic. Sonali, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Mike and Alex. I'm Sonali, client services lead at Avela. As I wrote in the chat and said, really nice to see current clients and some folks we haven't met yet. I get to lead all our client implementations with our team of Avela, and I myself have been in enrollment for basically my whole career. I was at Oakland Unified, ran their enrollment office and their charter authorizing office, and before that was at New York City Department of Ed, so seen both a small and a large kind of district context in enrollment. And yes, have definitely now worked with clients across the country and have seen lots of ways where we are still doing repetitive tasks day to day that easily, seem ripe for the kinds of things that AI is here to do. So it can be a little scary, but excited to have this conversation with folks today.
Yeah, thanks, Sonali. All right, so here's our agenda for today. So what you can expect is number one, we'll talk about, why are we talking about AI in enrollment right now? There's a couple of reasons why that we'll get into. Then we'll transition to some ways that AI is already impacting enrollment today with real examples so that you can walk away from this webinar and choose to implement these tomorrow if you so choose. We'll then transition into some ways that AI can impact enrollment right now with its current technological capabilities, but some ways that we haven't really seen widely adopted. But that doesn't mean that they're not coming soon. And then we'll take a more future perspective on AI and how it's going to impact enrollment beyond 2026. So in the next 2 to 5 years, and we'll dream big there. We'll have some tips for how enrollment leaders and organization leaders can prepare for this oncoming of AI and its impact in enrollment. And then before we get to Q&A, we'll have a surprise for the audience, a little sneak peek and exclusive look. So stick around until the end to see that. And we'll close with Q&A.
Excellent. Thanks, Alex. And by the way, feel free to drop questions into the chat as well as I believe there's a dedicated Q&A portal so we can take a look at those at the end. And if for whatever reason we run out of time, we'll make sure we get back to you personally on the side. So yeah, why are we talking about AI today? So before we talk about AI in enrollment specifically, I think it's important to say that AI is already in education. This is a study from College Board that was actually done this year. I don't know exactly when this year, but it's already showing that, over 80% of students are using AI for homework and assignments. Unclear exactly what that is used for, right? Hopefully they're doing it ethically and appropriately. But again, this is happening. This is real. This is in education. This is at least in the classroom. And the takeaway isn't just the number. The takeaway is that this trend is accelerating quickly. This is, something that districts are going to have and schools are going to have to grapple with in the near future. So even if your organization is not using AI, your families are to some degree. And we'll talk about a couple different ways that that's happening. And as a parent, this is something that I certainly think about a lot, as I mentioned, the ethical and appropriate use of AI. in the classroom, outside of the classroom. And Alex, if you jump to the next slide, that's more on the student side. Here we are talking about school leaders. And again, it's looking in the classroom. So this is predominantly leaders seeing potential for the use of AI in lesson planning and curriculum development, assignment creation, things like that. This is actually a year old. So this was at 70% a year ago. It was at 53% the year before. We can imagine it's even higher now. And so again, the impact in the classroom is absolutely happening. And today we want to kind of shift and talk about how we can use these tools outside of the classroom and, in the sort of back office administrative world.
Yeah, so as Mike mentioned, rightfully so, so much of the conversation around AI has been in teaching and instruction and learning. But we are going to focus on the administrative side today, specifically on enrollment management. And enrollment is ripe for AI for multiple reasons. So the whole process has a mix of conditions that make AI able to perform really well and have a big impact. Number one is it's full of manual processes, so paper forms, emails, phone calls, managing data in spreadsheets, and manually updating data in different systems. There's a lot of manual processes that go into enrollment today. Second is many fragmented systems. So an organization or a district uses a lot of tools, and those tools rely on data to be up to date, but they don't always all speak with each other. Third is that enrollment is full of time-sensitive, high-stakes deadlines. So whether that's compliance or running lotteries and having placement rules around different timelines, even appeals, there's a lot of time-sensitive things that are going on and that are high stakes as well. And of course, there's a high volume of data that is being managed throughout the enrollment process, whether that's contact information of a family or of a student, even the interactions, or of course, private documents. There's a lot of data that needs to be managed, and AI is really good at handling that. And then the last reason that you don't actually see on the screen here, but that we all know is that enrollment is very formulaic and is a rules-based process and is hopefully well documented. AI thrives in this kind of environment where there are set conditions and set rules, and it's primed to automate a lot of the things that you see on the screen.
So those are a couple ideas. We've talked a little bit about how it's ripe and in areas. Before we kind of jump into a lot of the content here, I want to ask a quick poll question. So I'm going to launch a poll here, basically asking how comfortable are you with using AI for enrollment tests? So again, this is outside of the classroom. And the reason why we're asking this is actually at Avela, we asked the same question as part of an enrollment survey we did. What was it, Alex, 6 months ago, a little bit earlier this
Yeah.
year. And we're curious to see any shifts in responses in just that short amount of time. No wrong answer here. I see some responses still coming in. This is great.
Yeah.
Um, and we'll use
While
this.
they answer,
Yeah, go
I'll
ahead.
just say, Mike, that was in July and August of this year,
Okay.
and that survey we've turned it into a report on our website called "The State of Enrollment 2025." You can go read that if
Yeah.
you'd like. But yeah, we'll compare these answers here in a second.
All right. I am going to. All right, 10 more seconds. Then it will be exactly 1 minute. I have a fancy little timer here. And then we will publish. I should publish the answers. Let's see here. Excellent. Oh, someone got one last in. That's great. Okay. So I'm going to share the results here while Alex actually pulls up the next slide and we can do a little on-the-fly comparison. So again, as Alex said, uh, July of last year, or of this year, excuse me, we had 49% that were somewhat or very comfortable. Today, that number is 48%. Okay, so about the same. That's great.
Nice.
Uh, 23% were neutral today, 28% earlier. So a little bit more uncomfort we're seeing actually now. And that's not that surprising. I think as the
Yeah.
conversation around AI has become more and more central in every part of our lives, I think there's probably a lot of concerns about what this means. I mentioned like the appropriateness and the ethics of it earlier, so I imagine that's where some of this is coming from. But if you have thoughts on, why you may be uncomfortable with it, I would love to have anyone drop anything in the poll on or in the chat on that.
All right.
All right. Well, that was interesting, and we'll make sure everyone gets a copy of this as well, so you can kind of do your own comparison there. All right, so let's talk about what is happening with AI in enrollment today. So the next couple of slides are going to talk about ways that AI is already, you know, in place in enrollment workflows, in customer support workflows. These are real examples. We have real districts and schools and organizations that are implementing these right now. You may not be, but again, as Alex said, these are things you can go out and tomorrow start doing these things. I think it's important to note that, AI is built for efficiencies. The goal is not to replace staff, to be clear. The goal is to reduce repetitive workflows, improve responsiveness, make things easier for families. Actually, Sonali coined a term here at Avela that we say easier for families means easier for admins. And I think that's really the truth, right? If you can use AI and technology to make things easier and seamless for families, that's fewer phone calls, fewer emails, less time that your administrators are dealing with
And I
that.
think part of that is also that, increasingly we see enrollment teams being saddled with additional and more responsibilities. Like now you're responsible for marketing. Now you're responsible for, outreach to families, to vulnerable families. And so there's, as more of that comes on that you maybe want to use a human touch on, then you can use AI to kind of automate the things that
Yeah,
don't really need as much of a human touch.
that's a great
Yep.
point. So as we walk through these next couple slides, just kind of think about, if you have bottlenecks that could maybe be addressed by some of these things, and we'll actually call out some of the tools that are being used for this as well. And obviously, feel free to follow up.
Yeah, we'll start with the first one here. I just want to say thanks to Eric for your answer to Mike's question about the
Oh
uncomfortability
yeah.
around AI. He says very personal information to have out in cyberspace. 100% agree with you, and that is certainly a concern. Okay, so the first way that AI is impacting enrollment today is with AI chatbots and call centers. So to set the table, families have a lot of repeatable and repeated questions around enrollment, whether that's around deadlines or requirements, where they or their students are in the process, or what to do next, or what's missing. And having an AI chatbot allows an organization to answer these questions around the clock without having to actually have an administrator monitoring this chat all the time. So number one, it frees up staff to focus on their time on more higher leverage cases that need the human touch and that have some more nuance. And then it also lets families get answers to their questions right away without having to, dig through the website or navigate the website. So this example that you're seeing here is from Greenwich Public Schools, and I really like this one. The one on the left, the picture on the left here is they've adopted or made their AI chatbot this hound. Name him GP Sleuth Hound, and if you click on it, it opens up the window on the right, and it says at the top, like, it introduces itself. And then it says, as my name tells you, I can do one thing better than any creature on earth, which is track down the answer to your question on our website. And I thought this is great. A family that has any question can come to this chat bot and really just interact with it and get the answers that they need right away. Now, this chatbot is powered by Always On. There are other tools you can use as well, notably Intercom IO. But really, you just choose the chatbot of your choice, and then you connect it to your frequently asked questions or your knowledge base or even your website as a whole, and it can provide value to your families and to your administration right off the bat.
Absolutely. And I think taking that a step further is learning from those conversations. And so, yeah, go
Mhm.
ahead, Alex. Learning from those conversations. So, if you were to implement a chatbot or a customer call center that was kind of automated, analyzing that information to understand trends, right? You can synthesize all that information to hear what are the topics that families are calling in the most about. So you can help update some of that information on your website or proactively promote that. AI can help summarize these themes. What's confusing families? This is very common in other sectors. Actually, at Avela, we do a net promoter score survey a couple times a year where we ask our customers, what do you like? Would you recommend Avela? Things like that. And we're very fortunate. We get very positive feedback and a lot of feedback, and we do read every single comment. But there are so many that identifying a lot of those common themes can be a little bit tricky, and AI is a great tool to help do this. And so this is actually a screenshot from Dialpad. which is another tool. There's Qualtrics, there's Five9, there's a handful of these customer service tools and chatbots that have added AI layers. But we've already seen their website actually lists Orange County Public Schools in Florida and the Early Learning Coalition of Palm Beach County in Florida as customers. So it's great to see this already happening in the education space. And I imagine that those organizations are seeing some great results and hopefully getting that analytics and learning and proactively putting better information out there.
Awesome. Love that one. The third way that AI is impacting enrollment today is with targeted personalized outreach at scale. So the thought is that when you're interacting with families or with a contact, a personalized message performs much better, meaning it gets more engagement and is more likely to lead to the desired outcome. And doing that one-on-one, like if I'm sending Mike a message, that's doable for me. That it takes me a couple minutes and not much effort. But if I'm trying to do it for 100 people at once or thousands of people at a time, that is very time consuming. But with AI, it now gives us the capability to create a personalized message using the information that you have on a parent or on their family or on their student, and create a much more tailored message that they will more likely are more likely to respond to. So there are many different use cases for this. It can be for, marketing or recruiting, but it can also be for just communication with families as they're trying to complete tasks about their student and with their registration. A couple of the options that we've seen that are used, the tools are Lemlist, Apollo. You may have heard of Clay as well. But these are tools that make it easier to send highly personalized outreach at scale that is more likely to yield the result that you want. And I want to give Mike a couple of seconds here because he has a good example.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that, as a marketer, we struggle with a lot, right? It's very easy to send out a generic email to everyone. Even this webinar invitation that you were invited to, that was a fairly generic email. It may have been personalized with your name, but in general, that was kind of a mass email. And so, uh, versus we could have sent individual emails to everyone on the, hey, Sonali, we'd like to invite you. That is very time consuming. That does not scale. And so AI can kind of build that balance, as Alex was saying. An example that kind of a real life example that I have is I have a third grader that has an IEP, and let's just say that I forgot to upload the IEP during the registration, that document, right? There's two ways a district or a school could handle that. One would be to send out a generic, if you are receiving this email, you are missing one or more documents, please rectify this at your local office, right? That is very impersonal. I have no idea what I'm missing, but that's probably the most efficient way for the school or district to get that information out to me and let me know there's an error versus having the registrar send me something very personal. Dear Mr. Murphy, your son Alex is missing his plan. Please bring this to Kate in the front office at Proctor Elementary by Tuesday, November 5th, whatever. And AI can definitely make that happen at scale. And so I think and again, once that happens, now I know as a parent exactly what's missing, who it's for, when I need to bring it, who I need to bring it to, and these tools that Alex listed can make that happen.
Yeah, it's hyper specific to your use case, which
Yeah,
feels much more personal and actionable.
right,
Okay.
right. Okay, so this next section, again, those are kind of things that are already happening today. We've seen districts doing that. This next section are things that we believe are capabilities that are in other industries that have not yet been brought to the education space. And that could be because budgets are limited or the systems are not purpose-built for education, but this is kind of what we see as the next wave of tools. And so we think that this is possible. It's just not necessarily happening today. It is technically possible today. And so, yeah, let me kick it over to Alex to talk about kind of our first example here. And I'm sure Sonali will have things to say as well.
Yeah, this one includes a lot. So Sonali, if you want to jump in with some example, feel free. But the first way that AI can impact enrollment today with what it's technically capable of is improving the application and registration experience for families, and really with the goal of improving the completion rates for these applications or for registering. Now, the issue or the problem that this is solving is that oftentimes families will stall during some part of the process, or they will abandon the process altogether for different reasons, like forms are long or requirements are confusing. Documents can be difficult to submit. Maybe they missed a deadline and it's hard for them to keep track. I think an experience that is supported by AI, however, can yield the following advantages. Number one, for example, if a family is uploading a document, AI can take that document using something called optical character recognition. That's the OCR that you see here on the screen. AI can take that document and then process it within half a second or even less time and extract the information that is in that document and push it to the areas either in the form or in a information system that is requiring that information. So instead of an admin having to read through it or a parent having to read through it and manually type it in, AI can make that process much faster. Another example of AI improving this experience is clear completion guidance. So as a parent or family member is going through the process, if something isn't right, AI can tell them, "Hey, this needs more information," or "This is not the format that we're expecting." And instead of just giving the parents one cautionary note, it can offer a conversational aspect to this where the parent can say, "Okay, I thought I needed to do it this way. What do I need to change?" And it can actually be a bi-directional conversation to help the families and the parents get the information they need to complete this correctly. And then another way is a multilingual document support. So if someone is uploading a document that is in a different language, instead of them having to translate it or trying to find someone else to translate it, AI can take this very quickly and switch it to the language that is consistent with the rest of its data, so that it can be actionable and completed. And so these are just a few ways that AI can make this process smoother for parents and take less time with the goal of, if you make it easier for parents, they'll complete it at a higher rate on the first go.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, and I think this connects to kind of one of the next ones too that we have coming, but in addition to supporting folks throughout the process of applying or completing a registration form, it can also help gather those meta insights to be able to say, okay, now we've seen, 20 people or, 5% of people got hung up here. This is confusing. And then start to gather that insight to actually make the entire application form, better over time and help gather those insights for you. So I think it's both kind of in the moment supporting families to get to the end, but then also giving you that information back to be able to, make smart choices going forward. And I think I'll just say the document piece is really huge for, I think a lot of folks in the application itself, you may not have as many documents, but definitely when it comes to registration time, there's a lot of, immunization collection, proof of residency, those kinds of things that can be just really onerous and cumbersome. And certainly, when I was in Oakland, that was a huge chunk of time that our registrars spent was just reviewing documents, making sure that the date was in line with the date window that we, within the past 45 days, making sure this address matched something else. That just really was the 3, 4, 5 step process was both time consuming and still led to human error. So I'm excited to see kind of that getting used more and more.
Yeah, and as you say that, Snelly, it almost makes me think that maybe we should have put these slides in opposite order because really this is all about big data. There's so much data, not only in the applications, registration, the forms, the systems. Obviously, AI is, large language learning models that are built on all of this data, and bad data is a really big problem, especially as we're talking about moving things across different systems. A small error can have catastrophic results. I mean, on eligibility alone, right? If someone, puts in, if someone swaps the birth date and the birth month, for example, on a form or something, that can impact eligibility for kindergarten, for example. And so AI can really serve as a steward of data quality, can be a data quality guardian and flag things for the families during the application submission process, for the admins on review, and help, eliminate duplicate records, inconsistent information, mismatched documents, things like that. And it builds trust in the process. And I think it's also important to note that a lot of these tools that we're talking about, I would say most actually, are what we call or what is called, we don't call it, the human in the loop. And that is basically, it will not make decisions for you. It will help flag things and make recommendations, but the human will decide in the end. And so, again, I think a lot of the trust issues that we hear about and talk about I'm hopeful that these are not as big of issues because with that human in the loop process, again, the AI is parsing the data, making recommendations, and then ultimately the admin, the registrar, whoever it is the one making a decision on that. Maybe the AI is wrong, maybe the documents were correct, but worth that flag so that a human decision can be made. And again, there may still be human error, but hopefully it's reducing that.
Yeah. And I would say that the human in the loop, which I think we'll come back to over time as a
Yeah.
theme, is really important because we all know in enrollment there's a million exceptions, right? And therefore, those exceptions are for good reasons, right? There could be a family who's in temporary housing or in a shelter. And so we want to be able to make an exception that their document can look different or this isn't required. And so I think it's really important that AI is sort of respecting the fact that, especially in education, we're working with a diverse population. There's been, especially years ago, right? There's been over the past few years, I think a lot about how, if AI is not trained the right way, then it can really
Yeah.
contain bias. And so I think, making sure that we are all being responsible users of it is something that's really important. And I think that's, I think a lot of the world has gotten to a better place recently in AI than it would have been if we hadn't gone through those years of realizing
Mhm.
how problematic some of that bias and the kind of training data could be.
Yeah. And Alex has some tips on that later on too.
Yeah,
So,
great.
this piece here, this is kind of out of left field, I'll admit. This is not necessarily related to the application and enrollment process. It's not necessarily related to the backend on the admin side, but actually, Alex and I have experimented with some cool tools. You can just search AI avatar video, but the idea is basically you can create personalized video, again, personalization at scale, right? That's a lot of the theme here. Personalized videos from a teacher, a principal, a school leader, a counselor, welcoming the student to the school. Once they're fully registered or their offers accepted, it can be a personal message. Hi, Alex, we're so excited to have you joining next week. I just met with your teacher and he can't wait to, whatever it would be. That is not something that every principal could record for every student, but there are some really cool AI tools that, again, I think this is more in the theme of like just delighting people and getting them excited. And again, I think it's not necessarily going to help with the enrollment and with the processes, but just another kind of fun example of how AI can help.
And I would say being able to create those videos is actually can be a huge part of marketing. I actually went to an info session yesterday for a school that I'm considering for my kiddo. And at the info session, they had teachers there and they were like, this is the only time you get to hear from teachers because if you come during the day, of course, the teachers are busy. So
Right.
being able to have, you know, an avatar video that's like, fed them the syllabus, fed them all this information. It can say, like, here's what your kid will experience this year. And here's like the list of, here's some books we're planning to read. I think can be a really meaningful way to start to get to know who's going to be teaching your kid, for example. We had actually a client recently in the early childhood space, which is a complex process, as a lot of people may know. There's a lot of funding sources, a lot going on, and they wanted a simple video to just kind of explain the landscape. And so she was like, we already have all these written resources that people aren't reading. And so she fed them all to, I think she's notebook.lm and it created a video. And she was like, it honestly came out like 90, 95% perfect. And that's such an easier way to have like a 3-minute video for a family to be able to watch to consume all that information. So I do think there are definitely ways this can also make
Yeah.
these kinds of videos and avatars can make things easier for families and then, hopefully then easier for admins.
And even as a marketer, I mean, I've done lots of product explainer videos and demo videos, and they take time, they take
Yeah,
budget. Whenever there's a change, you have to go back to the original source material. I mean, these can be
yeah,
a fairly large burden, but I think, yeah, AI video in general, again, this use case is for personalized, but again, just synthesizing information and creating a video. People watch videos, right?
yeah.
Reading a bunch of documentation, calling into the office is a lot bigger hassle than just watching a 2-minute video. So lots of
Mhm.
opportunities there. And again, I think I'm not going to list any specific tools, but you can just search AI video, avatar AI video. I mean, there's a million out there, even just on the first couple pages. All
Let's
right.
transition
Yeah.
to thinking a bit bigger and thinking about ways that AI will impact enrollment beyond 2026. So these next two sections, these next two ideas are things that might not be possible right now, but judging by the way AI is growing, the trajectory it has, and how it's impacting other industries, we think that these are likely to come in the next few years. So I'm going to start with AI suggested workflows. And there are two ways that I'm thinking about AI suggested workflows. Number one is every organization, every school has a very unique process with their enrollment management and how they manage their data and things like that. And an AI bot or an AI enrollment management system can come in and identify what the steps are for certain use cases or for the student population as a whole, for transfers, for example. And it will be able to say, hey, I have taken your fragmented processes that usually requires a human to push through, and I have created a workflow that does the desired accomplishment or will accomplish what you desire automatically, and it will propose that to the admin, and with their oversight and with their review, then they can publish it and have that just be an automated flow that would have normally taken their oversight or taken their them manually pushing the steps there. So we call that workflow orchestration. And over time, an AI bot that has created this and that is connecting and monitoring the system can also identify ways to optimize or ways that will yield the most success and even become more efficient over time. The second way of thinking about how AI will impact the admin side in years to come is through this, we're calling it a Hello Admin agent. Basically, when an admin logs on for the day, the enrollment management system will tell them, good morning, Alex. Here are like your high priorities for the day. Here are the cases that need your the human touch that need your follow-up. And this is the status of these current flows that are happening, basically telling the administrator what they need to be putting their focus on for that day and giving them status updates and really guiding their work for that day. So these are some ways that we see AI impacting the enrollment process in a couple of years.
And I just wanted to give like a hyper specific example on the workflow orchestration of something that I know, can be time consuming, for example. So let's say you give a lottery priority or an enrollment priority to children of employees. And so you gather on the application, are you the child of an employee? And if they say yes, they put in, let's say, the email address and name. And so now on the reviewer side, in the past, it's sort of manually going through each one and checking against some other lists. Right now, you could set up a flow. Well, not now. When this is possible, you can set up a flow that says, take all of these email addresses and names, check them against this database of, the full list of employees. And, if there's a match, then verify it. And if there isn't a match, then send a message to the family saying, this didn't match anyone and don't give them the verification for the priority. And I think those kinds of workflows are the things that we see staff still spending quite a bit of time on that, will make things faster. Avella already makes a lot of those things faster. And I think the future is really going to make those things even faster.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. That was a lot for one slide, for sure. I think the next section is about data. I mean, I mentioned data earlier, but I think this is really about continuous improvement at scale. And by what I mean by that is, everyone has a dashboard. Everyone can track how many applications they're getting, the average turnaround time, how many of them accept, the standard dashboard metrics, and that's great. There's a lot of work and a lot of intelligence and a lot of human brain power goes into taking that data and making it actionable, turning that into insights, making predictions from that. And not to say that humans don't need to be doing that, but certainly the computers can help out with that. And so using AI to kind of move from static reports to actual predictions about the future. I mean, this example here is from a financial services company, but you can imagine, people can pull different levers and different triggers to understand how this will impact revenue in the long term. Well, similarly, a lot of work goes into enrollment forecasting, pulling multiple inputs and trends and demographic information and population and all these types of things. There's a world where that becomes, again, like a plug and play scenario where people can say, well, if this happens, how does that impact my transportation? And if this goes up, how does that impact my scheduling and my resources? And so being able to like actually action on the data and play with it in real time and make these insightful predictions about the future. Yeah, we're not seeing that yet in education, but I can imagine a world where that does happen down the road.
Yeah.
All right. So again, we've kind of gone from ways we're already seeing it to things that we think are going to happen to things that may happen in, the near distant future. I think we wanted to leave you with some specific examples of what you can do. I mean, as soon as this afternoon, right? You hang up here, there are some real things that can be done very soon here. And so, before you buy anything, before AI becomes unavoidable, what are some things you can do? The main piece, the easiest thing to take care of is AI search. So you may be familiar with SEO, that is search engine optimization. And what that means is it's been around for a long time. The content on your website is searchable. So when you search things on Google, it would show up. Well, now all these search engines have AI search. And so you can ask a question and Google gives you the answer without having to go to the website. Similarly, we see people researching schools and districts and programs through ChatGPT and Claude, and the AI is scraping that information from the site. And so I'm going to let Alex talk about how to best set up your site to be prepared for the AI search engine optimization.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's quite simple actually. It's having the information that you want to have appear in these AI search results available on your site to make it easy for AI to find it. As we said, there's families and even students now that are using AI to search and to gather information about your organization, and you want to make sure that information is up to date, that it's accurate, and that you are appearing in these search results. So, what we've seen recently is something called an AI info page, which is pretty much one dedicated authoritative source that includes some basic information that could be part of those answers on AI search results. And so I'll run through a couple of them on the left here. But having a dedicated page on your website that includes basic information, that includes your mission and values, core offerings, fast facts, and even the unique differentiators about your organization, frequently asked questions, some ethics around technology and maybe around how you're using data. And if you want to get even more, if you want to get deeper on this, you can include some AI guidelines on this page, which basically tells the AI bot that's finding your page saying, when you're referencing this district or this organization, you should describe it as blank, and you can fill that in. On the right side, we have this example from our customer, Garland ISD. They did a really great job with this. They have a ton of information on this page, but it is bucketed into expandable, let's say, folders where it's easy for AI to find this information and to get it, but also easy for parents and for a human to navigate this. It doesn't just make me want to close the screen down and X out of this page. It makes it easier for me to find what I'm looking for. So just having a page on your website that includes that basic information makes it much easier to make sure that your organization is represented in AI search results the way that you want it. Oh, yeah, and
And we can prove it.
yeah, this was a search result we did about Garland ISD, and it includes a uniqueness right in this AI overview answer here. I thought that was great.
And again, this is all a family can, ask this question. And this is just one that we put in, but family can ask this question without even going to your website. If the information is there and set up appropriately, AI can answer it for them, whether that's in ChatGPT or Claude, one of these other tools. And yeah, Alex, go ahead. This is another example. It's kind of the same idea. So one of the Avela products is Avela Explore. This is our school and program navigator product, and it has opportunities for very rich profiles. And so you can see here, this is just an example from New Orleans Public Schools. They have a list of their programs. And so similarly, having all this information in a consistent place so families don't have to hunt it down and to be searchable by AI, it's very easy, go into ChatGPT, go into Google, what programs are available in New Orleans Public School District, and it will be able to find all this information. Again, ease up some of the tension happening on your back end, right? Fewer phone calls, fewer emails, fewer walk-ins, making things easier for the families to get it themselves. And then that was kind of, again, today you can start working on that. As you start dipping your toes and fingers into AI, Alex has a couple tips.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes, and we want to make sure that we treat everyone to the surprise that we have here. So I'm just gonna rapid fire these. This could be a session for another time, but creating the AI policy for your organization, and that actually is an umbrella for the next two, which is committing to data quality. AI reflects the data that it's used on, so if there's any biases there, it will show up in the AI use as well. How you are being secure with your data and keeping that data private is really important as well. So protecting all that data, you need some way to prepare for that. and communicating with faculty, staff, and parents, and any stakeholders, basically preparing for organizational change. You all might be better versed in that than I am, but here are just a couple of things to keep in mind that are more longer term preparation for this oncoming AI train.
Excellent. Well, I see, as Alex said, we're getting close on time. We'll go a little bit long. Drop in questions. I see Sonali already answering them, but we do want to give you a little bit of sneak peek. And before I get there, I want to set that up by saying, Avela's mission is to ensure that every child has access to a great education. And we bring that to fruition today through our product suite, which spans from program and school navigation through application, through lottery and matching to enrollment. We offer data tools. We're the only enrollment vendor that offers an open API. We have a phenomenal client services team led by Sonali. And so we really believe that we are making great steps forward to really reach our vision and mission, which is to help families and help children get access to great education. And so we are, drum roll, we are very excited to introduce kind of the next evolution into that step towards our vision, which is Avela Intelligence. And so it's a cute little AI play, but this is going to be our new AI layer across the enrollment management process. And we're focused on practical high impact areas. So I'm going to give you a couple of specific examples. We're going to show you some kind of new products and new features that are coming out very soon here. Again, all under the guise of reducing administrative burden. So first is going to be some verification tools. And so in this example here, family has uploaded a birth certificate and typed in some of the information there, and Avella Intelligence will go ahead and understand, is there a match, is there a mismatch, and flag that for review, saying this one's good to go ahead and approve this, or hey, this is a flag, you need to take a look at this and spend some more time. And so again, just making that verification flow a little bit more seamless. And then secondly would be our messaging platform. We already have messaging capabilities within Avella. We're bringing an AI layer into this to help draft those messages, polish those messages, and we're really excited about the translation piece, which is basically you can write the email in whatever language you are comfortable with or the message, and hit translate, and it will go out to the family in their preferred language automatically. So, and again, all of these tools are to help make recommendations, make things easier, and then ultimately the human, the admin will review and make the decision on that. And so we're super excited about these new features. They're coming out soon. We're happy to kind of give you a further demo and further information on some of them. Feel free to reach out afterwards. I know that was very quick. There's a lot to
Yeah,
say, though.
that was quick. There's a lot that is going into that, so we'd love to tell you more about it and show how it can support. But thank you all for being here today. These are the key takeaways we want to leave you with. Is obviously AI is impacting enrollment today, and there are ways that it's going to be impacting it in the near future in very transformational ways. And as we've seen, AI in the classroom is really impactful, but also there are huge gains to be made on the outside of the classroom, specifically with enrollment management. And we think that preparation will make a big difference for something that is as transformative as AI is getting ahead of it and getting ready to implement it can make a big difference in the long run. So thank you again for being here. We have a minute left. I know Sonali's been answering questions in the Q&A. We'd love to continue the conversation with you and specifically hear how you want to implement AI or even what issues you're dealing with for your enrollment management.
Yeah.
Feel free to contact us at the vela.org/contact, or you can email Mike there. Thanks for your time, Mike,
You can email
Sonali.
any of us, not just me.
Yeah,
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, I'm really excited to just talk about this topic, but also just kind of show you kind of what we're thinking of with the Avella Intelligence. And so, yeah, would love to show you in more detail. Please reach
Yeah,
out.
reach out or any ideas, cool ways you guys are using AI. Yeah, we'd love
Absolutely.
to hear from folks.
All
thanks
right. Well,
everyone.
have a great rest of your day, rest of the week, and we'll see you in January for our next webinar. Thanks, everyone.
That's right.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.